So what are the three pillars of sustainability? Environment, economy, and society. All of them directly and indirectly impact each other. None of these pillars stand alone. This is why it's important to consider everything when we're talking about sustainability, from materials and wastage to human treatment and working conditions. So this topic today, Women of Sustainability, I have these incredible speakers who are ordinary yet super extraordinary women warriors. Again, we had almost 800 sign-ups, which I'm absolutely thrilled about, and I streamed through several different areas, so hopefully you've all got this link here wherever you're coming in from. So thank you once again for joining. So I'd just like to introduce my first amazing speaker is Aoife O'Sullivan, partner of the Air law firm. Aoife is a London-based lawyer specialising in business and commercial aviation, military aircraft and civil aerospace. She's a leading partner at a boutique firm dedicated to the aviation industry with offices in London and in Ireland. So Aoife, let me make sure you're unmuted here. Are we unmuted? Yes, you're unmuted. So the pandemic has drawn attention to the our environmental damage caused by air travel. So what impact does flying have on the environment?
Good morning. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks for hosting this. I think it's a fantastic idea. So well done. The impact on the environment, I mean, this is something that aviation has been aware of for many, many years. There is an impact. Is 2% of global emissions. Now, if you compare that to, for example, rail, road transport is 17%, shipping is 3%. You don't hear as much about the shipping industry, but that's actually more than aviation. But to put it in context, if you look at the growth of the aviation industry since the 1960s, when it really first came, I mean, if you put it on the context of over the course of the last 100 years, we have started out with the Wright brothers learning how to fly to where we are today with the jets taking us around the world. There has been massive, massive innovation and technology advancement in this industry. The jets that we have today, even compared to the 1960s, are 80% more fuel efficient today. So there has already been a huge awareness, coupled with the fact that the cost of fuel and the rising cost of fuel has actually driven a lot of the innovation, and therefore the consequence and the impact on the environment. The aviation industry is already pushing towards more fuel efficiency, alternative fuels, etc. So we have a thing called sustainable aviation fuel, which is where the industry is looking at replacing jet fuel with sustainable products, and it is working. It's already available in the airports around the world. Not as much as we'd like it to be, but certainly the UK government in particular is putting a lot of funding towards making that kind of fuel accessible. Would be that over time we would do the shift. The industry has committed to net zero on emissions by 2050, and we're already very much on target for that. Aviation's actually already beating a lot of the commitments that were made back in as early as 2003, 2008. So it's already happening, and that's the widely misunderstood thing about aviation is this is already being taken very seriously long before it became as popular an issue as it is today. It's already been happening.
Let Let me unmute. To hear this, Aoife, this is so, I mean, for me, for most people, travel is really important for us, you know, whether it's for business or work, pleasure, whatever it is. And I think, as you said, see, there's always that highlight of flying. Flying is so bad. It's so bad for the environment. We shouldn't be flying. So to hear it firsthand from somebody who is in that industry, it's good for us to get clarity on that. And from, as you said, you've been looking into this. This has started years ago. It isn't just now when there was the pandemic and we were closed down and we were all locked down and there were no planes in the sky. This is something that's already being highlighted and pushed out there because we're going to continue flying. We're going to, please don't make us stop flying ever or reduce the flying. But so how can airlines reduce carbon emissions? Is it through this aviation, the SAF?
SAF, yeah, in particular, that's probably one of the fastest way of getting to more efficiency on CO2 emissions. But there's an awful lot else that's going on. I mean, the technological advancements in aircraft, you only have to look out the window next time you're on an aircraft and up into the sky. That already has made a massive impact on CO2 emissions because it's the getting into the sky and getting into cruise level is where a lot of the emissions are happening. There are things happening like around the world. So the airline industry, the aviation industry itself got together. So this is the manufacturers, the airports, the airlines, the operators, everybody around the world, cargo guys, medevac guys, they all got together and committed to changing for the benefit of the climate. And this is what's come out, this kind of an action framework towards, this was as far back as 2008, was the original climate framework agreement on the aviation industry. It was the first industry to do that. And we've put in place things like the emissions trading scheme, which was put in place in 2012. And that is the obligation on all European airlines now must monitor and report on their emissions per flight. So that's already happening. And then they have to put in place the carbon offset side. There has, in 2008, one of the first kind of a short-term goals was to improve fuel efficiency by 1.5% per annum. That actually, looking back, and that was between then and 2020, actually the reality was the improvement was at 2%. So they already beat their own targets over the last 10, 12 years. SAF is a big one, as I've mentioned before, the sustainable aviation fuel. There's huge efforts going into that, an awful lot of commitment from the manufacturers. Boeing, Airbus, all of these guys are all heavily committed to it. I work a lot in the business aviation industry, so that's where aircraft are used purely for business purposes. And the BBGA, which I chair, is the British Business and General Aviation Association. We have set up a sustainable their own organizations, because don't forget, you sitting on your aircraft and heading off to Lanzarote for your once a year holiday, it is a massive global contributor to the economy. It is I mean, there are 88 million jobs worldwide directly in the aviation industry and into tourism. So you mentioned earlier, should we all stop flying, or do we all have to sit tight? Well, no. I mean, that's obviously not practical. So what we've done instead, and what the airlines are doing instead, is anticipate. Look, we're at, I think it's 4.2 billion passengers per year now worldwide, compared to in the early days, a couple of 100,000. So the demand for aviation is incredibly strong. They're expecting that demand to continue by at least 5% per annum. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way of allow that demand to continue, because you're not going to say to 4.1 billion passengers, you're not going to be able to fly. I mean, it's a ridiculous concept or a ridiculous solution. It's not a solution, frankly. But what you can do is do what we are doing, which is make sure that increase does not impact or does not cause an increase on carbon emissions. And that's exactly what's happening, is allow the development, allow the contribution to GDP, allow these economies to be sustained, allow the emerging markets, allow all of that, allow us all, frankly, to have our 1 week holiday or 2 week holiday, allow all of that to continue, but do it in a way that is sustainable. And that's exactly what's happening. Because, you think about it, for you to say, right, I'm not going to go on holiday, we're here in the UK. So unless we all head back to the old, that doesn't make sense. And by the way, the shipping industry is at 3%, aviation's at 2%. So it's not a sensible solution to any of it. All we can do, and that's exactly what this aviation industry is doing, is take it very, very seriously. And I'm personally a very strong advocate of this, and I do welcome this type of forum, because we talk about it within the industry an awful lot. We talk to each other an awful lot about, this is what we can do and this is what we can learn from each other. There's a huge amount of sharing of knowledge and passing on these advancements to within the industry. But we don't always get the opportunity like this to tell people who aren't in the aviation industry that, well, slow down a second, guys. Let's not always bash the poor airlines.
Yeah.
They're a very beleaguered industry right now. They have been suffering massively with COVID, but they are an essential part of the economy. Even during COVID, the demand for cargo and medevac went up exponentially. You think about everybody stuck at home. Well, how did all of those Amazon boxes get to you, to your lockdown, and get you the things that you need? How do we get the fruit delivered in from Africa? You can't just stop aircraft flying without thinking of a massive, massive impact that would have on economies and indeed on day-to-day life.
For me, as I said, for most people, as you said, it's not, we're still going to continue to fly. I had no idea about the shipping. So that's very interesting to hear that they're 3%. So they need to sort themselves out too along the way. But this, I'm really interested in this SAF. I'd only looked into it prior to this for this event. And so is it that there'll be vegetable oil crops? Is this
SAF is to still keep the aircraft flying efficiently. They're doing constant research on it, and the fuel is now available. The problem has been, to be perfectly straight, is it's more expensive because there's less of it available. But even at BBGA, a lot of our members have committed to working with government. So we do, as BBGA, we liaise with the Department for Transport and the government on this. And one of the things that we've been lobbying for is that accessibility. You need to bring that price down, because the airlines are already very profit sensitive. You don't make a huge amount on flying, operating aircraft. The profit margins are quite small and quite tight. So to say to an airline industry, we want you to move to SAF, but by the way, it's going to cost X% more than jet fuel, doesn't make sense. So what the governments can do is subsidise it, or just even making it accessible. You know, it does have to be put into different structures to the jet fuel, obviously.
Yeah.
But all of that is happening. And in the business aviation world, it is happening probably a little quicker because, you know, that it's a smaller part of the aviation industry. And it's probably easier to get quicker results in terms of testing what happens and testing how it's dealt with. The other big thing that's going on, obviously, is electric and hydrogen and the unmanned aircraft, etc. There's huge technology advancements in aviation now. You know, whether you'll be brave enough to go in an electric aircraft remains to be seen, but it is there. They are being tested, they are being flown, and that is certainly part of the future for sustainability in aviation.
Gosh, it's all changed there. Do you think also, Aoife, with obviously from lockdown, from people who missed out on their little holidays or their business trips, obviously resorting to a lot of Zoom calls,
The problem is that you can't actually, aircraft are very complicated, and you know, you can't just park it, turn off the keys and, you know, wait for the demand to come back again. You have to put it into protection and storage arrangement. A lot of the aircraft that are put out tend to be put out in deserts because they protect the aircraft. The environment is better for the aircraft. But if you want to keep it, I mean, we have a lot of them parked down in Southampton and Bournemouth. You have to run the engines once a month, and that's on every single aircraft that's been parked up. So there's an ongoing fixed cost with just parking the aircraft. You still have to pay the insurance, you still have to pay for the maintenance, you still have to run the engines. But bringing those aircraft back into service again is done under a very controlled regulatory environment. So it doesn't just happen in a day, I suppose is the message. It takes time. And the challenge for the airlines obviously is, well, do we try and bring them all back at once? Or do we wait for the anticipated demand? Do we try and meet the demand? Do we see the way it's happening? And that, to be honest, is what's the real challenge that we can see for the airlines right now is, how do they know? No, nobody knows in terms of the impact of COVID and how long this is going to go on. Yeah. But I personally think the demand is there. I think it always has been. Yes, Zoom has been great and it allows us to do things like this, but it's just not the same. It's really not the same. And one of my clients said to me recently, and I think it's a great summary of COVID and the impact of Zoom, is you can maintain very and there's none of that natural social and back to holidays. Having spent 2 years holidaying in the UK and, hanging out for one more day of sunshine, then yes, I can tell you I will be going back just purely to get the sunshine. But I think it'll come back. I just don't think it'll come back at 100% for quite a number of years yet.
Yeah, I think some people are still quite nervous. I held my first retreat abroad in Cyprus just last week, actually. And I was dying to get on that plane and get out there, and I was loving it. But pushing for the retreats, getting people back on board, it was still, you're still going to do some in the UK? It's like, no, get me out of the UK. I want to get on the plane again. Amy Nguyen. Amy is a strategist, researcher, and writer, focusing on the nexus between sustainable business, fashion, innovation, and technology. In addition to being a Forbes contributor, Amy is the founder of Sustainable and Social, a platform dedicated to deconstructing complex climate issues for a millennial audience and us. Her mission is to democratize the conversation about sustainable development and to educate and empower citizens in the pursuit of climate action. So a huge welcome, Amy. It's great to have you on board.
Good morning, Sandy, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I have a few slides, and I am conscious that we have a short amount of time, but I just thought it would be easier to explain. So if you could allow me to share my screen, I think host has to let me take that.
Sorry. That should be on. Seeing the person is why I'm like, okay, we can do some slides, but I want to see you. We all want to see your beautiful faces too.
Bear with me 1 second. It's just having some technical issues.
No worries. I think also another, obviously travel in the aviation industry, it's a very key topic in sustainability, but then also with fashion, we'll be moving to Charul then also. And so we're kind of covering a lot of the areas anyway. Right, there you're in.
Great, I'm in. So thank you so much. So thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Just running through a quick agenda, a little bit more about me and my why, then talk about sustainable and social, and some of my published work, which focuses on lots of different areas. And then also discussing the mission behind some of the companies I'm currently working for, because some people may not be familiar with them, and it's great to have insight into what they're doing. And there are also some slides on everyday activism, which we can circulate at the end because I think we might run out of time. So without further ado, what people think I do versus what I actually do, I really believe that variety is the spice of life. So I do work in strategy, I work in research, I write. I would definitely say I'm a climate activist. And when you're a climate activist, there's very much the Instagram versus reality element. So, you know, people think, oh yeah, like Greta Thunberg. So here's a little bit about me. I currently work as an independent freelance consultant. So I work at the moment with an organization called the Changing Markets Foundation, and they are a think tank, and they do lots of fantastic things to expose corporate injustice. I also work with a non-profit research advisory firm and contribute to Forbes as well. And in addition to that, I founded Sustainable and Social in 2018. So Sustainable and Social is basically a platform dedicated to deconstructing complex issues to a millennial audience. I started this in 2018, and it's great to see how evolved the conversation about climate has become in the last 3 years. But at the time, I don't think there was anything that really deconstructed the science, the economics, the policy, to people that were entirely new to the topic. So I focus on everything, whether that's economics to innovation and technology, supply chains, as well as something that I studied at university. I did a master's in, have a Cambridge certificate in as well, and all the way through to lifestyle. I mean, we've touched on aviation and travel and things like that. So it's up to institutions, governments, businesses, and billionaires to drive the real change as well. And I've also popped a note on sustainable finance and sustainable finance health checklist, because I think this is really important to look at. You know, we may change the way we eat, what we wear, the way we travel, but how are you managing your finances? And looking specifically at our pensions, we all try and do so much, but we may not realize that there's some information about ethical banking, green financial advisory as well, and how to sustainably invest, and some tools in there as well. But I'm conscious of time, so that's it for the moment. But if you have any questions, here are all my contact details, and I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much.
Oh, Amy, no, that's brilliant. You've covered so much there, incredibly. And I mean, as I said with your presentation, it was so when you forwarded it to me yesterday, day before, I was like, oh wow, oh my gosh, wow, you know. But again, a lot of information, as Amy said. If there's any questions for her direct, because she's covered a lot of topics here, please do get in contact. You know, all the details will be there after. But Amy, just going back on for the fashion, obviously, you know, we know about landfill. Well, we know what we know, you know, about landfill. And a lot of people, they're saying, love your clothes for longer. And I mean, some clothes I've had for like years, and I think, bloody hell, I've still got that. May not fit me so well, but I still keep them. But then also, charity shops or wherever you're going from. But what realistically you're saying about, you know, plastics being made into clothing? But I read one of that in one of your slides about plastic, and really they're tricking us. It's not really happening.
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions. People who are now trying to shop sustainably, you know, we'll see it in high street retailers in particular. Lots of them are using sustainable materials, or it will be like recycled polyester. Oh, it's made from recycled plastic bottles. It's amazing. That's a complete myth. And it's one of the largest misconceptions. And it's actually because once a plastic bottle has been made into clothes, it can't be recycled again. So it will go to landfill anyway. It's not a more sustainable option whilst you're using a recycled material as opposed to a virgin material. At the end of the day, it can't be downcycled, so it will still end up in landfill anyway. And actually, we shouldn't be using things like plastic bottles to make clothes. Plastic bottles should then be repurposed again into another kind of plastic packaging, whether that is bottles or something else. We need to keep waste streams in the kind.
I'm going into a shop and I think, oh, I'm going to, you know, let me buy this because it's more a sustainable product, and really it's not. But I think you said that green claim code, is that the one which is trying to protect us as consumers, that we're not misled into buying something that we think it's this amazing recycled product?
Yes, so for the audience that are in the UK, then the Competition and Markets Authority launched the Green Claims Code after their draft guidance earlier this year. And it's essentially given businesses until the end of 2021 to kind of get their houses in order in line with their framework and their criteria. And they will be running checks and assessments on these things. And I think, especially in the case of fashion, it's really, really important. And it's, you know, making sure that things are truthful and accurate, incorporating the whole life cycle of a product. You know, sometimes they'll be like, oh, it doesn't have that much of an impact, but what you don't realize is that they're not incorporating like raw material extraction, so they're not including the use of fossil fuels like oil and gas. So there are lots of things to consider within that, but it is a really positive step in the right direction, and I know that the European Union are also doing a very similar thing as well.
So check your labels, everybody, before you buy them. Anyway,
check your labels, but don't machine. Actually, the composition that's been written on the label isn't what it says it is. And one last thing is, even if it has a certification, it's probably like, it's not always the best thing. So you may see like, oh, this is a BCI cotton t-shirt, that doesn't really guarantee much in terms of like environmental or social performance. So that's also something to bear in mind. There's lots to think about.
Lots to think about, but again, it's what we do need to think about it. So Amy, that's amazing. I can't wait to learn and hear more about it. It's educating us. I think our children are very well educated in this way as they're growing up, because it's they're taught it from a young age, whereas for us it was new. Oh, we need to put plastic into this bag, we need to recycle, which I mean, I'm horrified now if someone puts plastic into general waste. It's like, you know, we're just changing our attitude and our ways, but again, educating ourselves. We need you as experts to teach us so we stay on the right paths.
start to add some to what you've already been doing. So here is just a small reminder that, everything that you do, every little step in the right direction adds value to the overall agenda around the globe. For organizations, this is just a very, very high level overview of the 6-step framework we propose to our customers and clients we consult with. But of course, there's a deeper dive that's required. But really holistically, it can be done, it can be achieved. You have to just start with assessing what the challenge is. And here, the audience, I want to get your attention. So here's a fun fact for you. I don't know if it's fun or not, but it's a fact for you. So use your chat box to tell me. $2,400 per annum. So average lifespan in the world right now is 65 years. Could you tell me how many dollars are we talking about? Anyone?
Oh.
You can unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat. What do you think is the number? I can't see the chat. Maybe Sandy, you can see and tell me if anybody's got it right. Anyone? We promise there is no punishment for that. Okay, let's see. It's $2 million.
Wow.
And our trees give that to us for free. Yeah. One more. So adapting sustainable practices, whether large or small, can have significant impact. And there was a research which was done in the UK. If every office worker in the UK used one less staple a day by using recyclable paper clips, how many tons of steel do you think would be saved in a year? Anyone? Take a guess. In the chat, perhaps. Anyone? It could be any guess. Okay, 120 tons of steel. That's a huge, significant.
One paper clip.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
more than 1/3 of total CO2 reductions required to keep global warming below 2 degrees through to anyone. Like how many years are we talking about with the current forests we have? And if we continue to grow the forestry that we have around?
about 30 years? No.
Only. Yeah, that means we need to plant more forests.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just the last one. How many % of Earth's original forests have been cleared or destroyed? How much have we consumed? We've consumed 80%.
Oh.
So really, what's our excuse, right? And I think it's really, really critical that, whatever it is that it takes for any of us to do what we can in day-to-day life, because, when we think, okay, if I don't switch off the light, how does it matter? Or if I don't turn off the tap, how does it matter? But if you start to aggregate that information and look at the bigger and grander scheme of things, it amounts to such humongous impact on our planet. So whatever it is that we can do, I encourage all of us to take those steps in the right direction. So with that,
but when you really understand what it's benefiting, how it's going to benefit the world, why aren't we it's shame on us, why aren't we doing it? But again, it's the education that we need to be able to know, well, what should we do? We're hearing about this. But what's unique though about the sustainability agenda at Mātiti Green? Because we're hearing all these, plant a tree, which is incredible.
Yeah. So Santi, I think in terms of uniqueness or the USP that we bring in terms of the tree planting project, I think what's really critical is, like I said at the start, is to have full access to the project, right? If I'm an organization and I'm willing to invest my budget in planting, let's say, global forests around the world, then I would like to know what happened to those seeds, right? And what our project enables is to not only just leverage technology to different ways of putting data together. But if I, as an employee, are not engaged with the program, then the sustainability agenda can go out of the window, because it's the employees who will drive it. And that's our vision and view with our work, that it does not have to be a one-time exercise. It becomes a way of life. And if big brands start to walk the talk with projects like these, I think the impact is going to be phenomenal.
And so how can we engage in such a project then, quickly?
Sure. So Sandy, our business model is B2B for right reasons, because where we are, and it's a conscious choice, because where we are in the world right now, if we have to start to make impact by tree planting, it needs to be, hundreds and thousands of trees in a location. And for us to be able to do that, we are engaging with, global multinationals, no matter how big or small. We plant minimum 100 trees with one partner. That's our MOQ.
Need to hear and share your details to learn that how we can be involved, because it's crucial, as you said, for our future, for our children's future, for the next generations. We've got to make this world a better place. So amazing. It makes me like I live in an apartment with a little balcony, and I've got these two little plants which are dead. Shame on me, I can't even keep that alive. That I'd love to be involved in such a project. So thank you so much. Brilliant. Really good.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, just with a couple of minutes just left, just to sum all of this up, I just want to thank these incredible speakers, Aoife, Amy and Charul, for the knowledge you share with us, educating, teaching us the wisdom, the importance of sustainability in our lives. It's so important. And for me, even just personally now, I've learned something from each and every one of you. And I know it's something which isn't, this is our future. This is what's in our I just also want to say thank you that this Women Warriors Network, it's been growing at such a rapid pace since just March. The amount of people who've became involved, it's phenomenal, and it's just continuing to grow. And we're starting now to go in person, that we'll meet, people. So I want to hold an event in Dubai, in Monaco, in Jersey, in the UK. This is what the 2022 is holding, in front of us. I just also want to thank Killick & Co, who are a wealth management company in Mayfair. They're sponsoring our first, so anybody who is in London, please, I'd love you to join us for festive drinks in Mayfair. It's on the 1st of December, but I'll send the details out for that. But it'd be nice to see people for real, these wonderful people I've been meeting online, just to meet them for real. And then our next event is for Women Warriors Network is on Wednesday, the 5th of January, and it's redesigning health and well-being in 2022. So if you'd like to sponsor an event or get involved by speaking or just to participate, please do. Thank you all so very much on this chilly Monday morning in London. It's chilly in London, Charul, anyway. And again, thank you to our incredible speakers. You really are true women warriors. And thank you to everybody who, I agreed. And thank you to everybody who has joined us, participated in this today. So these beautiful speakers, thank you so much, guys, and have an amazing week.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you
Thanks
guys.
so
Have a
much,
good
everyone.
one. Thank you.
Bye.